Focus today. I'm your host, Perry Atkinson. Very much in the news these days is security in big cities. And we have watched an amazing turnaround in Washington, D.C., not to mention the closing of the border. And there are other cities that are interested in this, and the president's interested in them. Baltimore, Chicago, and guess what? Even our own Portland might be on the list. But in the meantime, the Supreme Court weighed in. So I am always honored. And I have high regard for this man, our good friend Michael Letts. He's the founder and president of CEO of Invest USA. He also is an ordained minister that has over 30 years of law enforcement experience under his belt. He works closely with the president. He is the author of a new book entitled Truth, Lies, and Control, Finding Hope in an Upside-Down World. There's a picture of the cover of the book on the screen there, available online. You can go investusa.org is one of his websites, and Michael Letts, LETTS.US is the other website. Brother Michael, good to see you, friend. How are you doing, bro?
Always great to be with you, Perry. It's an honor to be on your show.
Well, you're the man. When I grow up, I want to be like you, but I ain't growing up.
Okay. I agree with that. I'd rather not grow up.
No. Adulthood's a trap. Don't go there. Okay. The Supreme Court gave the green light for border immigration raids in Los Angeles. This is fairly significant over the top of all the nonsense there. What's your take on this ruling?
Well, it allows ICE to do his job, and it allows us also to engage military operations. And why do we say military operations? Because, you know, the military, we've always planned it out this way, Perry. The military is an assistance role, i.e. it provides protection to federal property and to those who are performing their duty. It's never been the intent for military to go in and begin making arrests. We always bring in local personnel to do that. This gives us the green light, because here's what they were hoping for, talking about the leftist liberals. They were hoping that this ruling by the judge, basically, you know, one of those activist judges, would hold in that particular area, and then other activist judges across the country would basically shut down our deportation system, put it all on hold. That's what they were looking forward to. The Supreme Court just overruled that. It's interesting to me, Perry, that they can't seem to get it right talking about our activist judges. Supreme Court has already said more than on one occasion, you cannot do this kind of behavior, activist judges. They're intent on doing it anyway, and I think the reason why is because while the Supreme Court said you can't do it, there are no consequences to them ignoring the Supreme Court and doing it anyway. That's going to have to be addressed by the Supreme Court or by the president, one or the other.
All right, two things here. One is this is also defining presidential powers at the end.
It is.
The other thing that it's doing is if there isn't a consequence for breaking a Supreme Court decision against a lower court, that ambiguity has to be fixed. Is that a congressional thing, or what is it?
It should be a congressional thing, but here's the problem, Perry. You know, Congress has the ability to fix it two different ways. They can either impeach the activist judges or they can control their budget. We've not seen much enthusiasm by Congress to do either. So I believe it's something we're going to have to address on the presidential level. I believe it's something we're going to have to take a look at and totally reworking our judicial system. You know, the Constitution only provides for the Supreme Court. Congress is the one that stepped in and created all these other activist judges districts to quote unquote assist the Supreme Court. Well, I think it's time that we focus our attention on Congress now. That's going to be our next goal. Because I've said this before on your show, and I'll say it again because the facts are there. This is not some kind of hyperbole. There's been an awful lot of corruption by members and current members of Congress that needs to come to light. People need to be removed from Congress, and we need to start afresh with some very honorable people who are statesmen rather than these politicians that we have there that are only looking out for themselves, their finances, and their power.
Do you think ICE has gone too far in some cases?
No, I do not. I mean, I hear that argument a number of times, Perry, and here's the issue. ICE is only going as far as we have to get the job done. So, point being, first of all, we identify especially illegal immigrants who have criminal records. You notice we've made a mistake once by the wrong person, but we always rectify it when we do that. Second thing is that when we go after these, we only use as much power to accomplish the mission. When they resist and push back, that's where the problems become. So we're not doing anything more than the atmosphere that's being set by the criminals themselves.
What was your take on the president taking the National Guard into Washington, D.C.?
I think it's a necessary step, Perry. I don't think we have any choice. I've said that for some time on your show. Let's set the stage for all your viewers to understand why we did what we did. 4 years ago, when Joe Biden was sworn into office, we had 1.4 million sworn officers across the country. When he left, we were down to a little over 700,000, roughly around 700,000. That's a 50% reduction. We do not have the manpower to accomplish the means of providing what the Constitution guarantees. The Constitution says that we're supposed to have the ability, the freedom, the right to be free from fear, be safe, be secure. It's in the preamble to provide for our common defense. And so that is a guaranteed right under the Constitution. We don't have the ability to provide that right now from a law enforcement standpoint because we've been so decimated. So we knew we were going to have to partner with active duty or with the National Guard, which is what we're doing now with the National Guard. But it was never the intent to create a military state or to have this as a permanent solution. It is merely to provide them as a show of force, overwhelming force, so that we can get the situation under control. In the meantime, increase our recruitment, bring our law enforcement powers back to where they need to be, our numbers back where they need to be, and reduce the crime with overwhelming force during that process. So then the National Guard will no longer be needed and they'll go home. In fact, in D.C., we're contemplating now how much longer they're going to be needed there because they've done a mission well done.
Isn't
Mission
that,
accomplished.
brother, isn't that one of the definitions of the National Guard's responsibility to provide domestic safety?
It is. And, let's give what the other side, be fair. Well, what are they complaining about? What are they saying? They're saying it's a violation of the 10th Amendment. The 10th Amendment doesn't allow to have active duty or National Guard members present in a law enforcement capacity on American soil. But you know what's interesting about that, Perry? They don't read the full amendment. It gives two different exceptions. First of all, if there are foreign combatants on American soil, could you imagine in World War II if the Japanese and the Germans had landed on American soil and we just said, oh, can't do anything about it because you can't bring armed forces here. You have to just fight it with local law enforcement or do it yourself. Ridiculous. The first thing is if there's enemy combatants, we are allowed to use military force. Well, what did the president do with the cartels, the child sex traffickers, and all those who have come in illegally? He declared them to be domestic terrorists, i.e., enemy combatants. So we automatically meet that exception. The second thing is Article 10 provides for the president at his sole discretion to determine if there's a national emergency and then utilize them as he deems appropriate. But what has he declared a national emergency for? Because the crime has gotten so rampant, the corruption has gotten so bad, the president felt it necessary to declare America in a national emergency state. That meets the second provision. So we've met both of them, only had to meet one. So by all means, we needed to bring them in to get this situation under control, Perry. Once it's under control, we'll be out of there.
In the meantime, great controversy over whether he's going to go to Chicago with the National Guard, Portland, and Baltimore. But let's just talk about Chicago just for a moment. As you know, the governor and the mayor are totally against that. But now the citizens are chanting in the streets, bring in the National Guard. What do you think is going to happen there?
I think it's not just going to be Chicago, Perry. This is going to be a national rollout all across the country. We've already set the stage for Chicago. We've got 250 federal agents, additional agents that have come. They're working out of a naval base that we have there now. Why are we using a military base? Because we know what's next. This is just the first phase. We have to provide overwhelming power. But let me tell you, it's not just going to be there. Where you're sitting at, Portland's on the list. So is L.A., so is Louisiana in terms of New Orleans. So is Detroit. So is New York. And I can go Baltimore and I can go on and on. Here's what we want to make sure the American people understand. If you're not safe, we're not doing our job. We're going to do our job. We've given you that commitment. So we're going to make sure this country is safe once again. Interesting statistic most people don't realize I want to throw out here, Perry. We're rated as one of the most violent countries in the world, okay? But there are 4 cities, Chicago, D.C., Detroit, and New Orleans. If you take those 4 out, we're considered one of the lowest or the safest countries in the world. Isn't that amazing? 4 cities give us such a negative impact globally. And that's because we have allowed crime to flourish
Those days are over. We're bringing in whatever resources are necessary to provide for the common defense, for to make sure the American people feel safe and secure. It's their constitutional right. We're going to ensure that, regardless of politicians who think that they're going to use this as some, I, beats me, Perry, how they think they're going to make this a positive for themselves. But they're, regardless of whether they think they can make it a positive or not, it's not in the best interest of the American people, and we're not going to let it stand.
I guess we all shake our heads, Michael, as to why some people are fighting against this. It kind of leaves your brain on tilt. I mean, how in the world can they possibly support crime or think they have control over crime? They always yell out due diligence and all of that. The problem here is, and you've touched on it numerous times, America wants to be safe.
Right.
We've done some research on this, and again, it's an amazing thing of a woman 35, 54. The two things that are on her mind most is security and safety.
Right.
And they happen to control 60% plus of the daily commerce. It seems like to me that we are turning now because everybody wants to feel safe. And I can't imagine how anybody on the left can say, we don't want you to come and help us fix the problem. It's kind of a mind-boggling thing. Can you explain it, or is this just evil gone crazy?
No, you're not crazy at all, Perry. I'm happy to explain it. Here's what we're looking at. You know, the most important thing to the left, the Democratic to the left, the ultra-liberal side, is remaining in power. Because if they have power, they control and get whatever they want done. Transgenderism, you name it, they've got the control over. They lost that power. They're desperate to get it back. And what they see now is programs that are working under this administration, working very effectively, especially when it comes to security. They can ill afford for you to think positive of this administration and these principles, because that means you might vote for them again, Barry. And that keeps them out of power longer. And so what they want to make sure they do is whatever they have to, they're going to ensure that you view this negatively, so you'll return them to power. Where they've lost their mind is they're attacking something that they're not going to change the American populace. They're not going to make Americans think, oh, I think I'm better off to be unsafe.
Yeah.
That's just not going to happen. And by attacking a program that's successful, if they had any brains, which they don't, but if they did, Perry, here's what they would do. They would say, wow, that's a good program. Let's help you with that program. And let's bring you even better ideas to make it better and share in the positive response. That would help them accomplish their end goal of coming back into power. The way they're doing it is called self-destruction.
Okay, so is it true, the president mentioned the other day, talking about the possibility of going to Portland, he mentioned that most of these protests against the National Guard coming in or outside forces coming in, that they are paid professional demonstrators. Is that true?
That is true, and here's what you're fixing to find out in the weeks coming ahead. We're working with the Attorney General, with Pam, we're going to go after now those who are funding covert operations. And then what do we mean by covert operations? The Soroses. It's not just the Soroses, but others that are funding this, because this is an attempt to subvert the government of the United States of America. It's an attempt to enslave its people, put them in fear, and to harm them. And so they're actually associated with this crime. They're part of this crime. And we're going to go after the money source, and we're going to start bringing RICO indictments, which you'll see shortly. And we're going to end their ability to fund these operations.
So is this RICO? Is it espionage? Is it treason? What is it?
Treason. They're putting together a criminal network, utilizing their financial resources to undermine the very authority of the U.S. government. And that is a treasonous act. And we're going to make sure that it sticks. You know, it's interesting. That's what we did with the mafia. If you will recall, years ago, Perry, couldn't find the mafia. It didn't work very well, just trying to pick off one crime after another, one shooting after another. We went in after with RICO, and we shut it down. Same principle is going to apply here.
Well, brother, you're an encouragement. Thank you. Thank you for being willing to be a frontline warrior in all this. Let's stay connected. Let me say to our viewers and listeners, check out Michael's book, Truth, Lies, and Control, Finding Hope Under an Upside-Down World. There's a picture of the cover of the book. Where can they get that, Michael?
They go to any of the bookstores, Amazon, online, Books A Million, Also, let me encourage you to do this. They go to our website. That's INVEST USA, Invest USA, and make a contribution to putting a vest on an officer because we have to make sure they stay safe. I'll send you a copy of my book free. This is a thank you for caring for our first responders.
Well, again, that's what Invest is all about. He is making sure that all police officers have a bulletproof vest. Believe it or not, some are on the streets without them. It becomes a budget issue, and he's trying to fill that gap. InvestUSA.org. Thank you, brother. Good to see you. Stay in the fight, buddy.
Good to see you, Perry. God bless you. God bless America. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference.
All right, God bless you. Thank you.